Well, can you believe it? We're to our final project for the Candy Club. I hope that you've enjoyed our journey along with the Candy Club and that we have shown some different techniques and designs that you can do with these little 2.5-inch squares that we so love to work with. Our final project is called Payday. I felt that that candy name was fitting for the final project because we've reached the end, and at the end of a pay cycle we get that known as payday. So that was the name of our project for tonight. It's a project that takes a look at a 9-patch. It looks like this, and it's actually the 9-patch unit that's known as the disappearing 9-patch unit. And I added prairie points along on my project as those, like we've talked about before, is something that I enjoy doing. And when I got the project put together, I felt like it needed that. So we're going to break this down, and it grabbed a hold of my 9 patches. You're going to make a 9-patch unit from your 2.5-inch squares. The one thing that I want to tell you that you should keep in mind, if you have a specific square that you really like, you're going to want those to be in the 4 corners, because when you cut your block apart, you're going to have one area of your block that's going to have a larger area of fabric. So if you were using yardage and wanted to keep those all the same, because it is going to create a pattern, you would want those constant units to be out in that corner. So arrange your 9-patch and sew your 9-patch unit together. And then it's pretty simple from there. You're going to measure, you're going to have you're making cuts here in the center of your 9-patch unit. So you can do that one of 2 ways. You can measure, because if your sewing isn't accurate, it might be a little bit different. I have a 2-inch there, so I'm going to measure 1 inch over from that seam, make a cut, and then we're going to do that the other direction. So we're going to cut that. And you now have 4 block units. And I didn't want to cut through there. So we have 4 units like this. And from there, you can do a lot of different arrangements of your block. I chose to put my blocks together so that they kind of make, to me, it looks like a bow tie. If you can take a look at that right here, you have the 2 large blocks that face inward to create that bow tie, and you have a tiny one right here. So that's how I laid it out. You can refer to your direction sheet for that layout direction. And you're going to put your units together once you've gotten them laid out with a sashing strip. So this one's going to get turned like that. And then the same thing, you're going to do that here with the bottom. Put your sashing strip in there. This one gets turned this direction. And then you're going to make a center sashing unit with a cornerstone that lays in there like that. So you'll sew these 2 together, these 2 together, then sew your sashing strip, center onto there, and add this one to create your block. You'll make 4 blocks like this, and you're going to put those blocks together with another piece of sashing. So you'll make a pair. Actually, you're going to make 2 pairs. One for the top, one for the bottom, and then you have a longer center sashing unit that will go in there. So looking back at our finished project, you can see how that lays together. Very, very simply done. And then, like I said, I opted to put prairie points on. You can use the leftover 2.5-inch squares if you're using a candy pack, or you can go ahead and pick however many numbers of fabric that you choose. I chose to do 3 and repeated those. It's best if you start in the center with your prairie point and then lay those out. And again, I like to make sure that the fold is always the same direction. You do 2 sides of that with your prairie points on there. Lay your border fabric on top of your prairie points. Your prairie points are going to be laying inwardly like this. Put your border fabric on there and sew those down, and then you're going to do the 2 remaining sides, and that takes care of your little quilt top. For quilting, I did this quite simply. I used a decorative stitch and just went down on either side of the sashing, which framed off your little cornerstone unit. You have a nice little 5 patch there in the center, so I opted to make sure that my fabric matched there, but you do not have to do that. You can mix it up if you wish to. I didn't do any quilting out in the border area as the border isn't real wide. Put the binding on it and you are finished up. So I hope you've enjoyed our Candy Club. We may do this again. You certainly will know if you follow along with us on Facebook. If you have any suggestions, we would love to hear those. Send us an email. And if not, we wish you a happy Thanksgiving and a happy holiday season. Be watching your mailbox because we may have a surprise pattern that we'll send off to you here before Thanksgiving comes for a nice little wall quilt for you to work up using 2.5-inch squares as well. For now, we'll say goodbye, and we hope that you've enjoyed this.